Welcome to Zoe Crossdressing. Alex Reynolds was the kind of person who planned everything down to the minute. His mornings began with the same ritual: fresh coffee, a carefully organized checklist, and a quiet apartment that reflected his need for order. At the marketing firm where he worked, his precision and discipline made him dependable, even predictable. Control wasn't just a habit for Alex, it was the foundation of his identity. But beneath that polished surface lived a secret he had guarded for years. It wasn't a passing curiosity or harmless daydream. It was something deeper, an urge that both thrilled and unsettled him. Alex was drawn to femininity in a way he could never explain to anyone else. The softness of fabric against his skin, the rhythm of a skirt moving as he walked, the unfamiliar balance of heels beneath his weight, those sensations created a strange sense of liberation he couldn't find anywhere else. Behind locked doors, he allowed himself to explore that hidden side. His apartment told the story of two lives. The visible half was immaculate and functional, everything in its place. The other half, tucked inside his bedroom closet, held dresses, wigs, makeup, and shoes arranged with almost reverent care. That space was his escape, a private world where he could become someone freer, someone less constrained by expectation. Olivia, his girlfriend of 3 years, was the only person who had ever glimpsed pieces of that world. She was bold where he was cautious, spontaneous where he was structured. Her confidence pulled him in like gravity, and her playful unpredictability often pushed him into situations he never would have chosen on his own. Their connection was intense, charged with a mix of affection and challenge that kept Alex constantly off balance. She knew enough about his secret to tease him about it, to nudge him past his comfort zone. Sometimes her suggestions made his heart race with excitement, other times they filled him with nervous anticipation. Either way, she understood him better than anyone else ever had. That morning, sunlight filtered through the blinds as Alex sat at the kitchen counter, lost in thought. The message Olivia had sent the night before replayed in his mind: "I've got a surprise for you. Be ready." It was vague, but that was typical of her. Still, something about it felt different, more serious, more deliberate. The uncertainty stirred equal parts excitement and dread in his chest. When the doorbell rang, he jolted upright. The sound echoed through the apartment, sharper than usual, as if announcing something important. He opened the door to find Olivia standing there, confident as ever, a knowing smile on her lips and a folder tucked under her arm. "Morning," she said lightly. "Hope you're prepared. Today's going to be interesting." His stomach tightened. "Interesting how?" "You'll find out." She stepped inside without waiting for an invitation and set the folder on the counter between them. Alex opened it, curiosity quickly turning into shock. Inside were formal documents, pages of dense text, signatures, lines, official formatting. It looked unmistakably like a legal agreement. "A contract?" he said, staring at her. "You can't be serious." "Oh, I'm very serious," Olivia replied, her tone calm but charged with excitement. "Think of it as a challenge. Something that pushes you further than you've ever gone before. But once you sign, things won't be the same." His pulse accelerated. He had taken risks before in private moments, small steps into unfamiliar territory. But this felt different, bigger, heavier, permanent. "Not the same how?" he asked quietly. She tilted her head, studying him. "You'll see a side of yourself you've never fully allowed out. And yes, once you decide, there's no undoing it." The air between them seemed to thicken with tension. Alex searched her face for any sign that this was just another playful stunt, but her expression held steady confidence. She believed in what she was offering. He looked back down at the papers. Fear rose first, fear of losing control, of stepping too far beyond the life he understood. But beneath that fear was something stronger: curiosity. A longing he had buried for years pressed forward, demanding attention. Images flickered through his mind: the swish of fabric, the sound of heels against the floor, the sensation of becoming someone else entirely. His heart pounded harder with every second. When he glanced up again, Olivia was watching him patiently, as if she already knew the battle happening inside him. "The choice is yours," she said softly. "Sign, or don't. But whatever you choose, make sure you're ready for what comes next." Alex's fingers hovered over the pen, trembling slightly as he stood at the edge of a decision that could change everything. A storm of emotion tore through him, fear clashing with excitement, instinct battling curiosity. Every part of Alex wanted to hesitate, to pull back, to reclaim the safety of the life he understood. But another part, quieter, deeper, and far more powerful, urged him forward. He inhaled slowly, steadying his trembling hand. Then he signed. The moment the pen touched paper, a jolt shot through him, an electric mix of adrenaline, dread, and exhilaration. The soft click as he set the pen down felt louder than it should have, like the echo of a door closing behind him. Whatever came next, there would be no undoing it. When he looked up, Olivia was already watching him. Her smile held satisfaction, a hint of playful triumph glimmering in her eyes. "Perfect," she said gently. "Now we start." Almost immediately, the atmosphere around him seemed to change. At first it was barely noticeable, a faint tingling along his arms, a flutter beneath his ribs. But within seconds, the sensation deepened, spreading warmth through his body as though something fundamental had shifted. Olivia snapped the folder shut, her gaze sharp with certainty. "It's in motion now," she said. "No turning back." Alex swallowed, pulse racing. The sensation wasn't only emotional, it was physical. His skin felt hypersensitive, his movements unfamiliar. When he glanced down, his breath caught. His features looked softer, subtler. The angles of his face less defined, his hands appearing more slender than before. "What's happening?" he whispered, voice unsteady. Olivia stepped closer, calm and reassuring. "You agreed to the experience," she said. "And this is only the beginning. The first step is accepting it." Before he could gather his thoughts, she guided him toward the bedroom. Spread across the bed was a carefully curated display, silk dresses, lace-trimmed skirts, elegant heels, shimmering accessories. Each piece seemed chosen with intention, arranged almost ceremonially. The sight alone made his heart pound faster. His fingers hovered over a pale pink dress before finally touching it. The fabric was impossibly soft, sending a shiver through him. It felt unfamiliar, yet strangely right, like discovering a sensation he'd always been meant to know. He hesitated, instincts clashing again. "Go on," Olivia murmured near his ear, her voice low and encouraging. "Try it. Let yourself feel it." With nervous, deliberate movements, he slipped the dress on. The material settled against his skin, smooth and light, changing how he stood and breathed. Every adjustment made him hyper-aware of his body, how he moved, how he balanced, how his posture shifted without conscious effort. Olivia moved behind him, fastening the back with careful hands. "That's it," she said softly. "Don't fight it. Let it guide you." Her words sent a ripple of sensation down his spine. The idea felt foreign, yet undeniably thrilling. When he took his first step in the heels, he wobbled, nearly losing balance. A nervous laugh escaped him, but excitement followed quickly behind. Step by step, he adjusted, his movements growing smoother, more deliberate. He noticed the subtle sway of his hips, the way the shoes changed his center of gravity, the rhythm forming naturally with each motion. "Much better," Olivia said, brushing a loose strand of hair from his face. "Now." She turned him gently toward the mirror. "Look," she whispered. "Really look. See who's there. This is you now, Alex." He wasn't hiding anymore. He wasn't pretending. For the first time in his life, Alex was standing in the open space between fear and desire, feeling both completely. Slowly, he turned toward the mirror. The reflection staring back at him stole his breath. The face was softer now, the angles gentler. His eyes looked larger, more expressive, framed by hair that fell in smooth waves over his shoulders. His lips appeared fuller, tinted with color that made them almost luminous. It was someone unfamiliar, yet undeniably him. Or perhaps, a version of him that had always existed beneath the surface. A surge of emotion rushed through him, vulnerability, excitement, empowerment, all tangled together into something intoxicating. His hand slid down the fabric of the dress, fingertips tracing the silky texture. He imagined how it would move when he walked, how it might catch someone's attention, how it changed the very way he carried himself. Every sensation felt amplified. The brush of fabric against his skin. The balance of the heels beneath his feet. The quick rhythm of his heartbeat. It was overwhelming and exhilarating. Olivia stepped closer, her fingers resting gently against his cheek. "You're doing better than you think," she murmured. "But this isn't just about appearance. The real challenge is confidence, holding yourself fully in this form. Power and vulnerability live together. You have to accept both." Her words settled deep inside him. This wasn't about clothes. It wasn't even about transformation. It was about letting go of control. For years he had kept this part of himself locked away, hidden behind routines and expectations. Now, every movement became a lesson: how to walk, how to stand, how to exist as someone new while still being fundamentally the same person. He practiced turning, watching the dress ripple around his legs. The heels clicked softly against the floor, each step growing steadier. In the mirror he saw contradictions coexisting: fragility and strength, exposure and confidence. And he loved it. Then came the makeup. Olivia opened a compact case filled with brushes and color palettes. His hands trembled slightly as he picked up the lipstick. It felt strangely significant, like holding a tool that could reshape identity itself. "Slowly," she instructed. "Every detail matters. This isn't a disguise, it's expression." He followed her guidance, applying color with careful precision. Eyeshadow blended across his lids, contour defining soft lines, shimmer catching the light. With every stroke, he felt himself shifting, not just physically, but emotionally. More aware. More present. More alive. Finally, she placed a wig onto his head, adjusting it until it fell perfectly into place. "There," she whispered. "Look again." He turned toward the mirror. This time, instead of shock, he felt a rush of exhilaration, danger, confidence, freedom wrapped into one powerful sensation. He wasn't hiding anymore. He was fully her. "Tomorrow," Olivia said softly behind him, "the world sees her. And you decide how far you're willing to go." His heart pounded. The next morning arrived too quickly. Sunlight poured through the blinds, casting warm gold across the room. Alex sat at the edge of the bed, still dressed in the pink silken heels, the wig perfectly styled. His reflection watched him, delicate, feminine, and charged with nervous energy. His fingers brushed the fabric again, grounding himself in the sensation. It wasn't just the clothing that changed him. It was the awareness, the intensity, the feeling of being fully present in his own body. But excitement carried a shadow: anxiety. This was no longer private. A soft knock, then Olivia entered carrying coffee, her expression bright with anticipation. "Morning," she said, setting the mug beside him. "Ready for the next step?" He swallowed. His voice, when he spoke, sounded different, lighter, slightly higher. "I don't know," he admitted. "It feels incredible. But also terrifying." Olivia sat beside him, her shoulder brushing his. "Good," she said quietly. "That's exactly where growth happens. Today you try it outside. Just a little. Enough to feel what it's like to be seen." His pulse accelerated instantly. He had imagined this moment countless times in secret fantasies, stepping outside, existing openly. But imagination was safe. Reality carried consequences. Still, the idea was irresistible. She helped adjust his outfit, smoothing the fabric, checking the fit, then guided him to the mirror once more. "Look carefully," she said. "This isn't hiding anymore. This is you feeling the thrill, the risk, the power all at once." He stared at his reflection. The face looking back held nerves, yes, but also courage. His shoulders moved differently now, his hips swaying subtly with each step in the heels. "You can do this," Olivia whispered. "We'll start small." The plan was simple, a quick visit to a nearby cafe. Brief. Controlled. A test. Simple in theory. Terrifying in reality. He picked up a small purse, fingers tightening around the strap as they stepped toward the door. The moment he crossed the threshold into the morning air, awareness flooded his senses. The cool breeze against his skin. The distant aroma of coffee and pastries. Footsteps on pavement. And people. Every passerby suddenly felt magnified, every glance heavy with possibility, judgment, curiosity, maybe even admiration. His heart pounded louder than the clicking of his heels. But he kept walking. He made himself move with intention, slow, balanced steps, heels tapping lightly against the pavement. Every motion required focus. The cafe was only a short walk away, but to Alex it felt like crossing an entire city. With each step came a surge of adrenaline. Every passerby became a silent challenge to his confidence. He kept his chin lifted, shoulders relaxed, breathing measured despite the rapid rhythm of his heart. People saw him, saw her, but what they thought remained unknown. Inside the cafe, the barista glanced up. There was a brief flicker of surprise in her expression, quickly replaced by a polite smile. "Morning," she said. That single word sent a ripple through him. There was no judgment, only awareness, but it was enough to make him hyper-conscious of every detail. The way he stood. The way he held his hands. The softness of his voice as he ordered. When he wrapped his fingers around the warm coffee cup, comfort spread through him. His painted nails, pale pink and carefully shaped, looked almost surreal against the paper sleeve. He took a sip, warmth settling into his chest along with a heady thrill. Olivia watched from a nearby seat, her expression equal parts proud and amused. "See," she whispered when he joined her. "You're doing better than you thought." He exhaled slowly. His heart was still racing, but now there was excitement woven into it. Being visible, navigating reactions in real time, was intoxicating. It also left him exposed in a way he had never experienced beyond private spaces. Every glance carried meaning. Every interaction held risk. And yet, he had done it. The walk back felt different. Lighter. The world hadn't collapsed. No disaster had struck. Instead, the experience had cracked open a door to something bigger, a possibility that this wasn't just an experiment but the beginning of a new reality. Back inside the apartment, Olivia helped him remove the heels, easing the strain from his feet. "You were incredible," she said, brushing a loose strand of hair from his cheek. "And this is only the start. The more you face, the more alive you'll feel." Alex sank onto the bed, pulse still buzzing with leftover adrenaline. The day had been a milestone, a small step with enormous weight. He had tasted vulnerability and power at the same time. And he wanted more. A quiet smile spread across his face. Once he had stepped outside and been seen, there was no returning to the person he had been before. He had signed. And everything was changing. By evening, the atmosphere carried a new kind of tension. Daylight faded into the soft glow of streetlights, shadows stretching across the room. Alex sat at the edge of the bed wearing another outfit Olivia had chosen, a lavender dress paired with delicate heels. His reflection held his attention. The silhouette, the movement, the way the fabric followed his body, it all felt mesmerizing, yet still unfamiliar enough to send nerves fluttering through him. Today had been a test. Tonight would be something more. Olivia stepped into the room, energy practically radiating from her. You handled today beautifully, she said. But real growth happens when you face the unexpected. When you push past limits you didn't know you had. A knot formed in his stomach. Unexpected, he asked carefully. She smiled and handed him a small envelope. Open it. His fingers trembled slightly as he pulled out the card inside. The moment he read it, his breath caught. An invitation. A ticket to an upscale charity gala happening that very night. Elegant. Public. Full of strangers who would notice every detail, his appearance, his movements, his voice. This, tonight, he whispered. His pulse surged with equal parts fear and excitement. I don't know if I'm ready for that. Olivia stepped closer, her hand resting gently on his shoulder. You won't know until you try, she said softly. No one there knows you. It's the perfect place to see how she shines. Then, with a teasing spark in her eyes, she added, and I know you're curious about the reactions. Anxiety twisted through him, visions of judgment, whispers, exposure. But beneath it, excitement bloomed. This wasn't secrecy anymore. This was visibility. She guided him toward the mirror again, adjusting his hair, smoothing the fabric of the dress with practiced care. Confidence, she murmured. That's what people notice first. Your posture. Your energy. Be her completely, fearless, captivating. Alex inhaled deeply and nodded. When he stood, the heels clicked softly against the floor. The sensation coursed through him, the sway of movement, the pressure of the shoes, the gentle weight of the dress. Vulnerability and power intertwined into something electric. And for the first time, he realized he wasn't just playing a role. He was becoming it. When they stepped into the gala, the scale of it all hit Alex at once. Crystal chandeliers scattered light across glossy marble floors, turning the entire hall into a field of reflections. Elegant laughter and low, polished conversations blended into a constant hum. The air carried perfume, champagne, and anticipation. It was beautiful and terrifying. His pulse jumped with every passing glance. Every brush of shoulders felt amplified, every whisper potentially about him. You're doing wonderfully, Olivia murmured near his ear. Breathe. Move smoothly. Observe. You're not hiding anymore, you're living her. He nodded, scanning the crowd while forcing his posture to remain poised. Curiosity flickered in strangers' eyes. Some offered polite smiles, others brief double takes before returning to their conversations. Each reaction sent a surge of adrenaline through him. The thrill of being seen while remaining unknown was intoxicating. Polished surfaces, mirrors, glass panels, silver trays, kept catching his reflection. Each glimpse reinforced the reality that what had begun as a secret experiment was becoming something far more tangible. Then everything shifted. A voice called out across the room. Alex? His heart stopped. He turned slowly and saw a colleague from work approaching, someone who only knew him as the methodical, serious professional who lived by schedules and structure. Recognition flickered across the colleague's face, followed by uncertainty. Fear and exhilaration collided inside his chest. Olivia leaned closer, her voice steady. Stay calm. Smile. She's confident. You've got this. He forced a gentle smile, letting his voice soften naturally. Hello, he said lightly. Funny running into you here. Suspicion lingered in the colleague's expression, but before questions could form, a waiter passed between them with a tray of champagne. The moment fractured just enough to redirect attention. Alex exhaled quietly, relief flooding through him. See? Olivia whispered afterward, brushing his hair back into place. You handled it. Strength isn't just appearance, it's composure. The rest of the evening became a series of small trials. Conversations that required careful responses. Strangers whose reactions were impossible to predict. Constant awareness of posture, tone, and movement. Each moment carried risk. And each success brought a rush of exhilaration. By the time they returned home, adrenaline still coursed through his body. He collapsed onto the bed, breathless but glowing with excitement. The night had pushed him to confront fear head-on, and he had survived. More than that, he had thrived. Olivia knelt beside him, pride shining in her eyes. "You were extraordinary," she said softly. "And this is only the beginning. There's so much more waiting." He nodded, exhaustion and exhilaration mixing together. He had crossed into territory he once thought impossible. And there was no going back. Later, the apartment felt quieter than usual. City lights spilled through the windows, painting soft patterns across the walls. Alex sat on the bed, heels dangling from his fingers, legs folded delicately beneath him. The mirror across the room held his attention. The reflection looked familiar now, yet still carried traces of transformation he was only beginning to understand. Every curve of posture, every shadow along his face told a story still unfolding. The adrenaline from the gala faded, replaced by a deeper awareness of vulnerability. Olivia appeared beside him, settling down with that same knowing smile. "Thinking?" she asked. He hesitated, then admitted softly, "I don't know who I am anymore. Is this me, or her? I feel powerful, but also scared." She placed a steadying hand on his shoulder. "That's normal," she said. "Real change isn't just physical. It's emotional. Mental. You're discovering parts of yourself you never allowed before. Of course it feels overwhelming." He traced the fabric of his dress absent-mindedly, noticing how heightened his senses felt, the softness, the temperature, even the faint sound of movement. "It feels like I've lost control," he whispered. "Like I gave something away." Olivia's smile deepened slightly. "Control was always an illusion," she said. "The real transformation happens when you stop clinging to it and start experiencing life fully." Her words lingered. He thought about colleagues, friends, everyone who knew him. How would they react? Judgment? Confusion? Acceptance? Anxiety stirred again, but so did curiosity. What would it feel like to be fully seen? Olivia leaned closer, her voice gentle. "Fear means you're alive. It means you're pushing limits. And you already started the journey when you signed. Everything else is exploration." He closed his eyes, emotions swirling, freedom, excitement, uncertainty. Then she spoke again, tone shifting slightly. "Let's try something new. A game. I'll create scenarios, and you respond as her. No hesitation. Stay in character." His pulse quickened instantly. "A game?" She nodded, eyes bright. "We test confidence. Decisions. Identity." She handed him a small envelope with his name written across it. Inside was a simple instruction. "Message someone from tonight. Stay in persona. Maintain composure." His hands trembled as he picked up his phone. The idea of interacting while holding this identity under scrutiny made his chest tighten, but excitement surged alongside the nerves. He began typing carefully, each word deliberate. Every notification that followed carried a spark of risk. And Olivia watched closely, a quiet smile forming as the next phase of his transformation began. A faint, knowing smile curved across Olivia's lips as she watched him. She could see it all, the vulnerability, the adrenaline, the quiet exhilaration pulsing beneath his composure. "This," she said softly, "is why you feel alive now. This is the test you didn't know you needed." The hours that followed unfolded in a delicate rhythm of conversation, role-play, and reflection. Alex found himself confronting thoughts he had buried for years, curiosity about identity, the intoxicating pull of reinvention, the strange freedom of stepping outside the version of himself everyone expected. At the same time, anxiety lingered like a shadow. The fear of being exposed. The uncertainty of what the future might demand. The possibility that he might never return to who he once was. Eventually, Olivia leaned back, her expression gentler but still authoritative. "Tonight was only the beginning," she said. "You faced conflict, temptation, pressure. And you learned something important about her and about yourself. But the real test is coming. And it will require everything you've discovered so far." Alex let out a slow breath, collapsing back against the bed. His mind spun with sensations, thrill, fear, empowerment, all woven together into something almost electric. Deep down, he understood one undeniable truth. He wasn't the same person anymore. The contract, the choices, the steps he'd taken, they had opened a door that could never be closed. Ahead lay uncertainty, transformation, and challenges that would stretch him to the edges of identity itself. He stared at his reflection and whispered quietly, "I'm ready, but am I ready for everything?" Later, the room glowed under the warm light of a single lamp. Shadows stretched along the floor, creating a quiet, almost cinematic atmosphere. Alex sat before the mirror, fingers tracing the smooth lines of his lavender dress. The fabric hugged him perfectly, while the heels shaped his posture into something graceful and assured. The wig framed his face in soft waves, catching the light with subtle shimmer. Every detail felt intentional, like preparation for something significant. Olivia stepped into view. "Tonight is different," she said. "Tonight you won't just test her, you'll live her." His chest tightened, anticipation and nerves colliding. The past days had been preparation, but this moment felt like a threshold, the final step before something irreversible. What will I have to do?" he asked, his voice soft and slightly trembling. "Everything you've learned," she replied calmly. "Confidence. Composure. Presence. You've already faced the outside world and unexpected challenges. Now you combine it all." His hands trembled slightly as he smoothed the dress again, grounding himself in the familiar texture. Fear and excitement swirled together, heightening every sensation. Olivia handed him a sleek envelope. Inside was a note. "You will meet someone unexpected. Maintain composure. Own the persona completely. Failure isn't an option." His pulse jumped. Another unknown. Another test. Another risk of exposure. Yet beneath the fear, a spark ignited. He wasn't hiding anymore. Hours passed in preparation. Makeup refined. Movements practiced until they flowed naturally. Jewelry added, bracelets that chimed softly, rings catching the light, eyeshadow shimmering with each blink. By the end, he barely recognized the person staring back at him. He wasn't just Alex. He was her, poised, confident, undeniably present. When it was time to leave, the city outside seemed alive with energy. Streetlights glowed against the night, and distant sounds blended into a steady hum of possibility. The walk ahead was short. But every step carried the weight of anticipation. Every glance from strangers felt magnified. The world felt unfamiliar. And irresistibly alive. He felt it in every movement, the gentle sway of his hips, the precise balance required by the heels, the strange fusion of fragility and strength pulsing through his body. Power and vulnerability no longer felt like opposites, they existed together, inseparable. When he reached the destination, a quiet, elegant lounge tucked away from the city's noise, his pulse began to hammer harder. Inside, one person waited. Someone who might recognize him. Someone who could unravel everything. The door shut behind him with a muted click, sealing him into a pool of low amber light and anticipation. The figure stood. Their eyes narrowed slightly, scanning him from head to toe. Recognition flickered for only a moment before curiosity took its place. Alex straightened instinctively, shoulders back, chin lifted, posture poised. Every lesson Olivia had drilled into him, every hour of preparation, every emotional breakthrough condensed into this single moment. "Well," the person said slowly, voice thoughtful, "this isn't what I expected." Each word pressed against his composure like a test of structural integrity. His throat tightened, but he smiled, a calm, controlled curve. "I'm exactly what you see," he replied softly, voice steady despite the thunder in his chest. "And tonight, I know exactly who I am." Time stretched thin. Silence carried weight. He felt exposed, almost transparent, yet at the same time, undeniably powerful. The sensation of being fully present, fully visible, surged through him like adrenaline. Then the figure nodded. A faint smile appeared. "Impressive," they said. "You've embraced her. Most people wouldn't dare. But you did." Relief crashed into him, followed by exhilaration. The fear remained, but it had changed, tempered by confidence, reshaped into fuel rather than restraint. When he stepped back into the cool night air, Olivia's hand brushed his lightly. "This is only the beginning," she whispered. "You've crossed the edge beautifully." His reflection caught in a dark window nearby, soft features, poised posture, unmistakable femininity. The truth settled deep inside him. He had signed. And now, he was her. The transformation felt complete. Yet the journey had only just begun. Later, back in the apartment, the silence carried its own electricity. Alex paced slowly across the hardwood floor, heels tapping in soft echoes. The full-length mirror captured every detail, the lavender dress hugging his form, the shimmer of makeup accentuating delicate contours, the wig cascading perfectly around his shoulders. But what stared back wasn't just an altered appearance. It was conflict. Tonight wasn't another exercise. It was the collision point between secrecy and reality, the moment where transformation met the risk of exposure. On the table, Olivia had left a note. "Someone is coming. Be her completely. No mistakes." His pulse surged. He had faced strangers. Even acquaintances. But this felt personal. The knock came, gentle but deliberate. Adrenaline shot through him. From the other room, Olivia's calm voice floated out. "Remember everything. Every gesture. Every glance. She is confident. She is captivating." He inhaled deeply, smoothing the dress, adjusting the wig. Then he opened the door. The person standing there was the last one he expected, someone who knew him well, someone who could read the smallest nuances of his former self. Recognition flashed across their face, then confusion, curiosity. "Alex?" they asked cautiously. His throat tightened, but he smiled, poised and practiced. "Hello," he said, voice light and melodic. "It's good to see you." Every movement was intentional, relaxed hands, lifted posture, controlled grace. He wasn't hiding, yet every second carried the risk of discovery. The visitor stepped inside, eyes scanning the room. "You look different," they said. "I didn't expect this." A shiver ran through him, but he remained composed. "I suppose it is something new," he replied gently. "An experience I've been exploring." Their gaze lingered, searching, skeptical, fascinated. One mistake could collapse everything. And yet beneath the tension was exhilaration, the intoxicating sensation of being seen and still holding control. Conversation unfolded in subtle tests. Questions about work. Casual remarks hinting at recognition. Small traps hidden in ordinary dialogue. He navigated each one carefully, balancing truth and deflection, charm and restraint. Then the person stepped closer. "I can't quite figure you out," they said softly. "You're different, but there's something familiar underneath." His pulse surged again. This was the core of the challenge, the intersection of identity and secrecy. He smiled, delicate and enigmatic. "Maybe," he said quietly, "some things are meant to surprise." The room felt smaller, the air heavier. Without warning, the visitor picked up a small mirror from the table, angling it toward him. His reflection stared back, fragile yet powerful, unfamiliar yet undeniable. The moment hit him with symbolic force. This wasn't about clothing or performance anymore. It was about identity. Courage. Self-mastery. A bead of sweat slid down his temple. The heels pressed into his feet. The dress clung to his body. Every sensation felt amplified, reminding him of the stakes. Olivia's voice echoed in his memory. She is confident. You can do this. He breathed slowly, anchoring himself. When the visitor finally stepped back, a slow smile spread across their face. You handled that better than I expected, they said. Most people would have cracked. But you've changed. Relief and exhilaration surged together through him. The first true test of secrecy had passed. But deep down, he knew. The stakes were only getting higher. The night was far from over, and the challenges ahead promised to test him in ways that would stretch body, mind, and spirit. Every heartbeat, every subtle movement, every whispered word had reinforced the new identity he had built, but also exposed the vulnerability that made the tension so electrifying. Alex had confronted exposure, scrutiny, and the risk of judgment, and emerged not broken, but sharpened, aware, and ready for what came next. As the visitor departed, he closed the door behind them, leaning against it with trembling legs, heels discarded, chest still pounding. Another threshold crossed, yet the story was far from finished. Tonight would push him even closer to the edge of transformation, demanding courage, poise, and total ownership of the persona he had embraced. His gaze met his reflection in the full-length mirror. I've survived this, but what's next? He whispered. The dim light cast long, deliberate shadows across the floor, highlighting every contour of the lavender dress hugging his figure. He adjusted the heels, feeling the subtle elevation shift his posture into one both elegant and commanding. The wig framed his face perfectly, waves catching the glow from the lamp. Every detail had been meticulously calibrated for what was coming. Tonight was no ordinary test, it was the collision of secrecy and reality, of exhilaration and exposure. A note, left carefully by Olivia, awaited, someone is coming. Be her completely. No mistakes. His pulse quickened. He had navigated strangers, colleagues, even casual acquaintances, but this was personal. The thought of someone entering this space, someone who could see beyond the persona, sent a shiver through him, equal parts dread and anticipation. Then, a deliberate knock on the door. Adrenaline ignited. Olivia's calm voice floated from the other room, remember everything. Every gesture. Every word. She is confident. She is captivating. You can do this. Alex inhaled deeply, smoothing the dress, adjusting the wig, and stepping forward. The door swung open, revealing a figure he had not expected, someone who knew him, who could detect the smallest traces of his former self. Recognition flickered briefly in their eyes, replaced swiftly by intrigue. Alex, the voice was uncertain, probing, careful. A tightness gripped his throat, but a small, poised smile curved his lips. Hello, he said softly, the lilting, light tone Olivia had taught him flowing naturally. It's good to see you. Every movement was intentional, hands relaxed, shoulders back, posture poised. He wasn't hiding, but every gesture carried the weight of potential discovery. The air thickened, tension and exhilaration coiling together with every second. The visitor stepped fully inside, eyes scanning the room. You look different, they said, curiosity lacing their tone. I didn't expect this. Alex shivered lightly but maintained control. I suppose it's something new, he said smoothly. Something I've been exploring. Their gaze lingered, assessing, caught between disbelief and fascination. One misstep, one misplaced word, could unravel everything. And yet, beneath the anxiety, there was a surge of thrill, the intoxicating power of being completely seen, completely exposed, and yet entirely in command. As the conversation unfolded, subtle tests emerged, probing questions, casual remarks hinting at recognition, little provocations to assess his composure. Alex navigated them with care, weaving honesty with deflection, charm with caution. Every laugh, every gesture, every measured reply revealed both poise and the confidence he had painstakingly built. The visitor stepped closer, curiosity sharpening. "I can't quite figure you out," they said softly. "You're different, but there's something familiar underneath." Alex felt his pulse spike. This was the crucible, the tightrope between identity and secrecy, thrill and exposure. He smiled, delicate and practiced. "Maybe," he said quietly, "some things are meant to surprise." The room seemed to shrink around him. Every glance, every breath, every subtle motion carried significance. Then, the visitor reached for a small mirror on a nearby table, tilting it just so. Alex's reflection caught him, fragile yet commanding, delicate yet undeniably present. It was a symbolic moment. This was more than a test of appearance, it was a test of identity, courage, and self-mastery. A bead of sweat traced his temple, the heels pressed firmly into his feet, the dress clung to his curves, and the wig framed his face flawlessly. Every sensation was amplified, each a reminder of the stakes. One misstep, one hesitation, and the delicate balance, the secret, the thrill, could collapse. Olivia's words resonated in his mind. She is confident. She is captivating. You can do this. He drew a deep, grounding breath, anchoring himself fully in the persona he had chosen. The figure stepped back, a slow, approving smile spreading. "You handled that far better than I expected," they said softly. "Most people would have faltered. But you've changed." Relief and exhilaration coursed through him. The first true test of exposure had passed, but deep down, Alex knew the stakes would only rise from here. Most people wouldn't have the courage, the stranger murmured, voice low but edged with undeniable authority. Most would falter. But you've changed. Relief and exhilaration surged through Alex like electricity. The first test of secrets had passed, but the night was far from over. The true trials awaited, designed to stretch him emotionally, physically, and psychologically. Every heartbeat, every subtle motion, every word exchanged had reinforced the persona he was learning to inhabit. And yet, with each success, the vulnerability beneath it only grew sharper, more intoxicating. Alex had faced exposure, confrontation, judgment, and emerged not unscathed, but empowered, sharpened, and aware. He stepped before the mirror, whispering softly, "I've survived this, but what comes next?" Outside, the city shimmered with night lights, alive with motion. Inside, the softly lit room cocooned him, tension coiling like a tangible force. Every step in his heels was deliberate. Each sway of his hips measured. Every movement a tightrope walk between grace and control. The thrill of his earlier victories still pulsed through him, a sharp, addictive reminder of both his progress and his vulnerability. Olivia appeared again, leaning casually against the table, eyes glittering with that signature mix of mischief and authority that left Alex equal parts terrified and exhilarated. "Time for the next challenge," she announced, voice smooth and commanding. "You did well before, but now the stakes are higher. You will be observed under pressure, and every reaction counts. One slip, one hesitation, it changes everything." Alex swallowed, nerves tangling with anticipation. What if he faltered? What if this time he wasn't enough? And yet, beneath the fear, a spark of daring ignited. He had come too far to retreat now. A soft chime sounded, announcing a new arrival. The door opened to reveal a stranger, deliberately chosen, a figure who radiated authority, with eyes that seemed to cut straight through pretense. "Good evening," the figure said, voice polite, controlled, but probing. "I've heard a lot about you, or should I say, her." Alex's chest tightened. The emphasis on her was a scalpel to his nerves, and yet, he forced a calm, confident smile, tilting his head with careful grace. "Yes," he murmured. "Tonight, it's all about her. I'm fully present." The stranger's gaze swept over him, the soft curves of the lavender dress, the delicate shimmer of makeup, the wig falling in perfect waves around his face. "I must admit," they said slowly, voice measured, "you carry this with confidence. But confidence can be faked. Let's see how you handle unpredictability. Adrenaline surged. Unpredictability, Olivia's favorite weapon. His mind raced, anticipating what might come. And then, it came, a deceptively simple question, designed to unsettle. Do you always dress like this? One wrong answer, one flicker of hesitation, and everything could unravel. Alex paused, exhaled deliberately, then responded softly, deliberately, every syllable measured with unshakable composure. It's not about frequency tonight. It's about presence. Confidence. Authenticity. The stranger's lips curved into a faint, knowing smile. Interesting. Most crumble under observation. Yet you maintain poise. But can you handle complexity? Alex nodded, a thrill coursing through him, tension coiling tightly in his chest. Olivia's voice whispered in his mind, she is confident. She is captivating. You can do this. Every word, every motion, every subtle gesture had to reinforce the persona he had built with meticulous care. Then, the subtle challenge escalated. The stranger stepped closer, producing an assortment of props, a delicate handheld mirror, a fine lace fan, a pair of silky gloves. Each object demanded an elegant, effortless reaction. The fan brushed lightly against his cheek, an unexpected caress that made his pulse spike. The gloves required swift, graceful handling, perfectly timed, without betraying nervousness. Every brush of fabric, every gentle tilt of the head, every blink under scrutiny heightened the suspense. The room seemed to shrink, compressing around him. Every heartbeat echoed, every breath felt amplified. The stranger's gaze remained unwavering, sharp, all-seeing. Alex's mind raced, but he drew upon every lesson, every rehearsal, every moment Olivia had drilled into him. He was no longer merely responding, he was performing, commanding, inhabiting her fully. And in that crucible of scrutiny, fear, and exhilaration, Alex realized, this was no longer just a test. It was mastery in motion, a transformation made tangible, deliberate, and undeniably alive. Every tilt of the head, every curve of the wrist, every subtle expression, Alex had become her completely. Grace, charm, confidence, all flowed naturally, seamlessly, blurring the line between performance and identity. He moved like liquid silk, poised and unshakable. Then the question came, sharp and deliberate, cutting through the air, what if someone you care about saw you like this? Would you regret it? Alex froze. The weight of the words pressed down like gravity, heavy and undeniable. He caught his reflection in the handheld mirror, the fragile, poised image of herself that radiated both vulnerability and authority. The tension coiled tight, electric, threatening to snap. Finally, with measured calm and unwavering certainty, he spoke. Regret is a luxury for those who hide. Tonight, I choose to face it, to embrace it, and to exist fully. I own every part of her. The stranger's gaze lingered, sharp and calculating, then softened into a slow, deliberate nod. Very well, they said, voice low and approving. You've navigated unpredictability with composure, elegance, and courage. Few could manage what you just accomplished. Alex exhaled, relief and exhilaration flooding him. The stakes had climbed higher than ever, yet he had emerged stronger, fully aware of his dual existence, yet more exposed than he had ever been. Fear, thrill, and the intoxicating power of transformation pulsed in perfect harmony. Olivia's hand brushed his arm, grounding him in the moment. This was only the second step, she murmured, lips close to his ear. The real trials are ahead. Every boundary, every desire, every fear, soon, they will all be tested. Are you ready? Alex turned to the mirror, tracing the delicate curve of his jaw, the cascade of the wig, the flow of the lavender dress. I'm ready, he whispered, voice low, firm, tinged with anticipation. Whatever comes next. The room hummed with tension. Each heel pressed into the floor like a drumbeat of resolve. The reflection staring back at him was delicate, poised, entirely hers, but behind it, adrenaline, anticipation, and fear churned in perfect storm. Tonight, every step, every movement, every word would be watched, weighed, and measured. Olivia appeared at his side, her gaze unreadable, voice soft but commanding. This is the true test. No rehearsed answers. No planned gestures. Instinct, courage, and embodiment, this is where she must live under pressure. Alex's heart pounded. Observation had been one thing. Unpredictability another. But now the intensity was multiplied, magnified beyond anything he had experienced. A soft chime announced the arrival of the next observer, an outsider handpicked by Olivia to push him to his absolute edge. "Good evening," the newcomer said, their gaze razor-sharp, scanning every inch of him. "I've heard about your transformation. I need to know if it's real. If it's complete." Alex felt muscles tighten. If it's real. If it's complete. The words struck deeper than any previous test. Every nerve screamed that a single misstep could unravel everything. Yet beneath the fear, exhilaration surged. This was the ultimate confrontation, the precipice where exposure and transformation collided. The observer stepped closer, eyes mapping his posture, gestures, micro-expressions. "Confidence is easy to fake," they murmured. "I want authenticity. Can you perform under pressure without breaking?" Alex inhaled, letting the dress sway just enough to accentuate poise. The heels pressed against his feet. Jewelry weighed lightly on his wrists. The wig brushed his shoulders. Every sensation anchored him, a tangible reminder of the persona he had meticulously built, and now, he had to defend it flawlessly. The first trial was deceptively simple, a slender tray, 2 glasses of water. "Carry these across the room without spilling a drop," the observer instructed. On the surface, mundane. But every movement, the subtle sway of his hips, the precise balance of his heels, the delicate positioning of his fingers, was amplified under scrutiny. One slip, one misstep, one tremor in posture, and the illusion could shatter. Alex centered himself. Muscles coiled, breaths measured, mind sharp. Step by step, heel by heel, he moved, hips swaying with calculated elegance, body poised, movements fluid yet deliberate. Each click of the heels echoed like a heartbeat, each inch traversed a testament to control, confidence, and mastery. By the time he reached the other side, every fiber of him thrummed with adrenaline. This was more than a test of grace, it was the apex of transformation, the moment where vulnerability and power, secrecy and revelation, collided in perfect harmony. A bead of sweat traced a line down his temple, yet Alex remained perfectly composed. The tray didn't waver. Every inch of him radiated precision, poise, and control. The observer's eyes lingered, sharp and calculating, before a faint, approving smile curved their lips. "Very good," the voice said, calm yet incisive. "Now, the emotional test." Alex's stomach tightened. Emotional test. He had been trained for observation, unpredictability, even subtle physical obstacles, but this was different. This was raw, uncharted, and it cut deeper. The observer's gaze bore into him, a silent search for hesitation, doubt, any crack in the armor. "You've mastered the exterior," they said, voice steady. "But can you endure scrutiny? Can you face judgment and remain unbroken?" Heat surged through Alex, vulnerability pressing like a weight. Yet he anchored himself in Olivia's lessons, grace, poise, confidence, and above all, authenticity. "I can," he breathed softly. "Every part of her is real. Every transformation, earned. I am complete." The observer circled, deliberate, methodical, examining posture, gestures, and the subtlest flickers of expression. Every tilt of the head, every blink, every sway of the hips became a pulse in this high-stakes rhythm. The tension coiled tighter, adrenaline threading through every nerve, yet Alex moved with liquid elegance, his composure unbroken. Then came the psychological gauntlet. The observer produced a stack of photographs, some familiar, some alien, each a spark of potential revelation. "Describe these," they instructed. "Confidence, emotion, authenticity." react naturally, but reveal nothing fragile. Show me her, fully. Alex's hands trembled slightly as he lifted the first photo, a casual image that mirrored his former self. The past pressed in, tugging at the edges of his new identity. He steadied himself, letting the persona take the lead. Every word flowed with soft authority, charm, and a controlled vulnerability that suggested depth without weakness. By the third photograph, the intensity was almost suffocating. His heartbeat thundered in his ears, muscles taut, senses heightened to every flicker of expression and gaze. And yet, she, Alex fully embodied, responded with poise, elegance, and unwavering control. Every description, every gesture, every subtle inflection radiated authenticity. The observer's expression softened slightly, a mix of admiration and surprise glimmering across their face. "You've done well," they said, finally stepping back. Most would falter. Most would crumble. But you've endured the physical, the emotional, and the psychological. Few could embody her so completely under such scrutiny. Alex exhaled, relief and triumph surging through him. He had stood at the edge of exposure, confronted judgment, and navigated pressures that tested every layer of his being. Yet even as the adrenaline ebbed, he knew the night was far from finished. The most defining moments, the crucible that would truly cement this transformation, still awaited. Olivia's voice whispered in his mind, calm, proud, triumphant. "She is ready. The final trials are coming. Stand tall, Alex. Own every inch of her." There was no turning back. Alex stood before the mirror, his reflection bathed in the dim, almost conspiratorial light. Every detail was immaculate, the wig falling perfectly over his shoulders, the lavender dress hugging his form with effortless grace, heels that forced a posture both elegant and commanding, jewelry catching the faint glow like tiny anchors of identity. He whispered to himself, voice low but resolute, "I've faced the edge. Now I face the storm." The room seemed to contract around him, shadows stretching long and dark, each sound, the soft click of heels against hardwood, the gentle rustle of fabric, his own even breaths, amplifying the tension until it felt like it pulsed in his veins. Olivia's presence was a silent force, eyes sharp, unwavering. "This is it," she said softly, voice threaded with authority. "No rehearsals. No preparation. Everything you've learned, every gesture, every word, every glance, must become instinct. And tonight, someone will push you to the absolute limit." Alex's heart hammered. He had survived scrutiny, unpredictability, and emotional exposure. He had faced judgment and the edge of revelation. But this was different. The thrill of vulnerability entwined with fear, a heady pulse he realized was at the very core of transformation itself. The door opened slowly. Two figures entered simultaneously, carrying quiet authority in every measured step. Their expressions unreadable, commanding. Alex knew immediately, this was no casual test. This was an orchestration designed to stretch him to the outermost limits of physical grace, emotional resilience, and psychological endurance. "Good evening," one of them said, voice calm but cutting, each word a probe. "We've heard much about you, or should we say her? Tonight, we'll see if the transformation is complete. If composure can withstand full observation. If you can survive being fully seen." Alex's pulse spiked. He shifted, heels pressing into the floor, the dress molding to his curves, the wig brushing his shoulders like a silent shield. He inhaled slowly, centering himself. He was ready, or he had no choice but to be. The first challenge was immediate. A sequence of tasks materialized, each demanding perfect balance, poise, and instinct. He moved across narrow paths, carried fragile objects, responded instantly to sudden instructions. Theory was simple. Observation made it lethal. One misstep could unravel months of transformation, exposure waiting patiently to strike. Muscles taut, every gesture deliberate, Alex's world narrowed to rhythm, heartbeat, heels, breath, the subtle cadence of the observer's quiet scrutiny. Step by step, task by task, he moved flawlessly. Confidence surged, but so did the weight of being watched. Then came the psychological gauntlet. The observers leaned in, questions probing deep fears, past regrets, hidden desires. Each response demanded honesty, yet every word had to reflect her persona. Hesitation betrayed. Vulnerability exposed. "How does it feel," one whispered, eyes searching, "to fully inhabit this identity, knowing a single slip could reveal everything?" Alex's throat tightened. Sweat pricked his hairline. But he drew from every rehearsal, every lesson, every whispered correction from Olivia. "It's exhilarating," he said, voice steady yet raw, trembling yet powerful. "Every part of her is real. Every moment, earned." The observers exchanged subtle, acknowledging glances, recognition of the authenticity beneath the practiced elegance. And then, the twist. One of them stepped forward, producing a camera, lens focused like a predator. "You will pose naturally," they instructed. "Any hesitation, any flicker of doubt, we will see it." Alex felt the lens magnify everything, appearance, posture, and the undercurrents of his mind, fear, thrill, hesitation, confidence. He adjusted the wig, smoothed the dress, lifted his chin, and inhaled deeply. Tonight, he was not just being observed. He was being tested, stripped, and sculpted into the essence of her, every emotion visible, every micro-expression under scrutiny. Every movement was an extension of her now, deliberate, graceful, commanding. Each glance, a carefully measured statement. The camera's shutter clicked again and again, capturing Alex from every angle, each frame a test of presence, of control, of authenticity. And in that flashing reflection, he realized a profound truth: this persona was no longer a mask. It was armor, a weapon, and a revelation, all intertwined. The thrill of being fully exposed surged alongside the sting of potential discovery. Every heartbeat, every micro-expression, carried stakes he had never imagined. Finally, the observers stepped back, gaze sharp but approving. "You've endured every trial, every unexpected turn," they said softly. "Few can maintain such balance under scrutiny. You've shown authenticity, resilience, and mastery of the self you've created." Alex exhaled slowly, knees trembling, adrenaline coursing through him like electricity through bare wires. The ultimate test of exposure had pushed him to the limits: physical poise, emotional depth, psychological endurance, and social composure all stretched taut. Judgment, scrutiny, and the threat of failure had all been confronted, and survived. Olivia appeared beside him, a subtle, knowing smile on her lips. "You've done remarkably well," she whispered, voice low, intimate. "But the night isn't finished. One final moment remains, the one that will seal everything. Are you ready?" Alex's gaze met his reflection. Soft features illuminated in the dim light, wig falling perfectly over his shoulders, dress hugging his form, heels steady. He drew in a breath, letting determination rise above fear. "I am ready. Whatever comes next. I am her." The room seemed to hold its breath. Every rustle of fabric, every faint click of heels against the floor, every slight shift of posture was magnified, charged with suspense. The previous challenges had tested him in every way, but this final trial demanded complete exposure, total embodiment, unflinching presence. Olivia stepped closer, eyes glinting with that familiar mixture of mischief and authority that always left him simultaneously anxious and exhilarated. "This is it," she murmured. "One last moment. Full embodiment. No turning back." Alex's heart thundered. The earlier observers were gone, but the weight of judgment had never felt heavier. This wasn't about proving anything to them, it was about confronting the ultimate truth. Could he fully claim this identity, this persona he had painstakingly built? A soft chime echoed through the room, announcing another presence. And then the voices, familiar, probing, impossible to ignore. "Alex?" The pulse in his veins spiked. It was someone from his past, someone who knew him intimately, someone capable of detecting even the tiniest falter. For a heartbeat, he froze. Then he inhaled deeply, centering himself. Every rehearsal, every lesson, every painstakingly honed gesture had led to this instant. Slowly, he smiled, soft, poised, perfectly balanced between charm and elegance. "Hello," he said, voice lilting, melodic, wholly in character. The familiar figure stepped closer, eyes scanning him from head to toe, the dress, the heels, the wig, every subtle gesture. "You look different," they admitted, trying to mask their surprise. "I didn't expect this." Alex felt the thrill of exposure collide with a flash of fear. Every second was a test, every glance a challenge. And yet, he remained flawless, deliberate, and present, poised in every motion, untouchable in his transformation. "It's a new experience," Alex said softly, voice carrying the subtle melody Olivia had taught him. "Something I've embraced fully." The figure's gaze sharpened, a mix of disbelief and fascination flickering across their eyes. "I've never seen you like this," they murmured. "It's remarkable." Then came the true test, the unplanned, unscripted interaction that demanded complete authenticity. The figure extended a hand, the subtle probe of social grace, and Alex's breath caught. For a heartbeat, hesitation prickled his nerves, adrenaline spiking like wildfire, but he lifted his own hand with perfect poise, every movement deliberate, elegant, precise. The contact was flawless, a handshake turned into a delicate dance of presence and charm. Exhilaration surged through him. Every trial before, the balance, the cameras, the emotional exposure, had led to this apex. And in that instant, Alex understood, the persona he had crafted was more than a mask. It was a declaration, a revelation, a shield that radiated inner courage he had never dared claim. The figure stepped back slightly, nodding, impressed despite themselves. "You've changed," they admitted quietly. "Not just outside, inside. Stronger. Different. Alive in ways I didn't expect." Alex's chest tightened, a cocktail of pride, fear, and exhilaration flooding him. He had survived judgment, scrutiny, and the ultimate exposure. Yet Olivia's voice threaded through his mind, calm but insistent, "This is only the beginning. One final seal remains." Without another word, she placed a small, ornate mirror on the floor. "Look," she whispered, eyes gleaming. "See yourself completely. No masks. No defenses. Face her, and yourself." Alex bent slightly, heels pressing firmly into the floor, and gazed. The reflection staring back was flawless. The lavender dress flowed perfectly, the wig shimmered in the dim light, makeup highlighting the subtle power of presence. But more than appearance, it was the aura, the confidence, the poise, the quiet strength radiating from deep within. Fear, exhilaration, pride, vulnerability, they all collided in one unstoppable surge. He whispered, almost to himself, "I am her, fully. Completely." Olivia's smile softened, a trace of mischief lingering. "Good. You've conquered every scrutiny, every challenge, but remember, the world outside won't pause. Every glance, every judgment, every exposure matters." Before Alex could respond, the door shifted. A shadow stretched across the room, deliberate, commanding. A new presence, unannounced, unanticipated, someone whose gaze could pierce through the illusion he had so carefully built. He froze. Heels pressing sharply, dress clinging just so. A chill ran down his spine. Every muscle coiled. Olivia's hand brushed his arm lightly, grounding him. "Now, face the final moment," she whispered. "She is ready." The newcomer stepped forward, voice low, deliberate. "So, this is the one they've been hiding. Let's see, how long can she maintain the illusion before it shatters?" Alex's pulse spiked. Exposure, judgment, suspense, all fused into a single, electrifying point of pressure. He was fully her, yet every part of him trembled under the weight of observation. One slip, one flicker of doubt, one hesitation, and everything could unravel. The room contracted. Every breath, every rustle of fabric, every subtle click of heels was magnified. Alex's fingers hovered lightly, adjusting the wig, smoothing the dress, maintaining effortless grace. He whispered softly, a quiet mantra against the storm, I own it. I am her. The figure's gaze scanned him, sharp, probing, catching every nuance. I've heard rumors, she said, voice low, almost a whisper. People say you've changed, but I need to see it. Who is she, really? Adrenaline surged. Every detail mattered. The tilt of his head, the sway of his hips, the gentle lift of his chin, all had to signal confidence, elegance, and authenticity. One false gesture, one faltering breath, could betray the truth. You move differently, she murmured, eyes narrowing. Confident, elegant, but there's something beneath. A secret. Can she hide it? Alex's chest tightened, words slicing into his psyche like a scalpel. Retreat into safety? Abandon the persona? Or claim it fully, risk everything, and embrace her completely? He inhaled, heels pressing into the floor, dress flowing seamlessly, wig framing his face like a halo. Every detail honed over countless trials was now on display. Slowly, he smiled, warmth, charm, and vulnerability woven together. She is real, he whispered. Every part of her, complete. The newcomer tilted her head, curiosity and incredulity dancing across her features. Is that so? She murmured. And Alex wondered, if Olivia or anyone else saw now, would it hold? Or would it all collapse? The tension peaked. The room held its breath. Every faint rustle, every soft click of heels, every subtle inhale amplified. Alex had survived scrutiny, unpredictability, and emotional pressure, but the stakes had never been higher. A faint sound, a door creak, a footstep, made him freeze. Another presence? Another threat? The mirror reflected more than perfection, it reflected fear, exhilaration, and triumph intertwined. Olivia whispered at his ear, this is it. She sees everything. Hold it. Own it. Don't falter. Alex lifted his chin, breath steady. The reflection staring back was delicate, confident, poised. I am her, fully. There is no turning back, he murmured. The newcomer stepped closer, eyes piercing. So, this is her, she said, a mix of awe and skepticism in her tone. The secret. The transformation. Can it survive the truth? Every muscle tensed. Every secret, every hidden desire, every meticulously crafted layer of persona hung by a thread. One misstep, and everything could unravel. Then, suddenly, a phone rang. A door shifted. A shadow moved. The moment froze, tension slicing through the room like lightning, and then, black. The cliffhanger left everything unresolved. Would Alex withstand this ultimate exposure? Could the carefully forged identity survive the gaze of someone who knew him before she existed? The answer lingered, just out of reach.